Welcome to another episode of Stride Motoring. I'm Skyler.
And I'm John.
And yes, our shirts are matching. And yes, this is my daily driver, a 1987 Volkswagen Scirocco 16 valve. It sucks.
It's been breaking down a lot.
A lot. It's always been the same issue. It's always been fuel pumps going out over and over and over again. There's two fuel pumps on this car, in case, for those who don't know. One in the tank and one to push the fuel coming out of the tank to the engine, and I've probably replaced each one probably 5 times.
Yeah, in fact, I think on top of that, there's probably like a little person that is like blowing fuel into the motor because the fuel pumps keep going out.
Yeah.
And that's how well it runs.
It runs pretty crappy. It doesn't idle well. It's all because of the fuel, and come to find out, it's a dirty line. But instead of replacing that one dirty line, I'm saying, screw it. We are replacing the entire fuel system, and we're going #no filter. Yes, we were putting carbs on this Scirocco. It's not going to be the expensive Webers though, because that's expensive and we're poor. It's going to be some bike carbs coming off of a 98 Yamaha R1. So it's going to be pretty exciting.
For those of you that are potentially concerned, we did ask the Scirocco for permission. We did get its consent.
Yes, and it would like to run better instead of coughing up what fuel it has in its system. Let's introduce you to it. This is my 1987 Volkswagen Scirocco, which I've dailied for the last 2 years. And if I'm honest, I didn't even know these existed until I bought it off a local website. And when I first saw it, I instantly fell in love and I had to have it. It's a fun car to drive, and it's been pretty reliable for the most part, other than the fuel system, of course. And VWs of this era had a fuel system called CIS, which stands for Continuous Injection System. Or CIS could stand for Constantly in Shop.
Yeah, it feels like it. I've got a few ideas. How about cheesy Italian sandwiches?
Better. It's already better.
It's certainly cheesy. Creatively imploding salamanders. Canned Icelandic salmon. Could be good.
I would taste like ass. It would taste like, yeah.
Cats interested in showbiz can't invest in stocks.
This definitely can. This is probably the worst investment car in Volkswagen history.
Choosing improper satire. Crappy infant slacks. Cacti invading Seattle.
That would be a war I wouldn't want to see, Jonathan.
No, just when you thought it was safe to go to Seattle. Corn inside a Subaru. Those are all silly, but what we think it really stands for is
can inject shit. I know you're thinking, well, Skyler, it's running right now. Sure, but it died on me yesterday because the fuel pump just gave out for some random reason and I had to pump the clutch going downhill. Listen to it.
It's yesterday's news.
Yeah, fake news. Fake news. CIS is a good fuel system. Fake news. Y'all's got to be ready. I'm about to floor it. All 123. No, it's more like 85 horsepower. Let's go. 6,000. Jonathan, how many times have I texted you saying the fuel pump's gone out on this?
I can't even remember, to be honest. I really can't.
So these here are going to be your main components in doing this bike carb setup. Now the first thing you'll need is an intake manifold. Now a lot of people will take the stock bottom end intake manifold, they'll chop up the runners and they'll plug in the injector holes and they'll use that as their manifold. I'm not a fan. I went ahead and bought a brand new intake manifold from Bog Brothers. Now if you've ever thought about running bike carbs, I'm sure you've ran into the name Bog Brothers. I highly recommend them. It's a high quality piece of kit here. And along with the intake manifold, I went ahead and got a new water pipe. Now this water pipe brings the neck further down, which then gives you more room for your carbs. Carbs. We'll be running Yamaha R1 carbs. I got these for about $200. They range anywhere from $150 to $300, depending on price and of course the seller. I recommend taking your time on buying these and being patient to see if what deals could potentially come up. Now from the carbs, you'll need velocity stacks or runners, whatever you want to call them. I went ahead and got these off of eBay from a seller called Dan ST Engineering, I believe. A lot of people want to charge a lot of money for these, but he has them at a very good price. And these here are 90 millimeter in length. He also offers them in 50 millimeter, if I remember correctly. And along with that same seller, I went ahead and got the silicone couplers I'll need to attach the carbs to the manifold and then carbs to velocity stacks. Also, went ahead and got a Piper Cross filter from that same seller as well. He also offers a base plate to mount this here filter. That brings us to fuel. Some people still run the intake pump. I don't want to, but we'll leave that there just in case. We'll see what happens with that. But to replace the tank or the fuel pump underneath the car, we'll be running a faucet style fuel pump. Not a real faucet. I didn't feel like paying $100 for a fuel pump if I didn't have to, so I went ahead and bought a knockoff for 25 bucks. Probably came directly from a mechanic themed porn shoot because it is absolutely doused in lube. I don't know if you can see it, but this box is just dark brown from it being wet and soaked from the lube. That then brings us to the rest of the fuel situation. Now we'll be running a Holley regulator, and we'll be running this about 3 psi. This regulator ranges from 1 to 4. A lot of people will run motorcycle, bike pumps because a lot of them have built-in regulators, but I didn't want to be set at 1 single psi. I wanted some range just in case if I needed it. So I highly recommend doing this instead of running a motorcycle carb. That way you have, like I said, range to adjust where needed. And of course we'll need a fuel pressure gauge. Very important to know what fuel pressure you're running at. And then a choke cable, a Mr. Gasket choke cable. All parts numbers or emails for Bog Brothers and Dan ST Engineering will be put down in the description below. That way you guys can see what we're using, or if you have any recommendations on what's better than what we're using here, we welcome it. We'll be updating that list in case another part comes up that's either we have to replace with it or we found is better than the other. So pay attention to that. Let's get started. The first step in this bicarb conversion is push your VW into place, because certainly by now the CIS is already broken. Make sure to remove the battery before you start pulling parts out for your safety and to give you more room to work with. Then remove your throttle cable from your intake. Make sure to keep it intact. We'll be using that for later. We recommend moving everything in 2 sections. First section will be the air box, fuel distributor, and the fuel filter. Oh, and make sure not to look directly at the fuel filter when removing it. You getting your eye? Yeah. We should have known better. Welcome to Stride Motoring. Now that my eyes are washed out, there will be 2 fuel lines from the airbox assembly. One of the fuel filter and one coming from the fuel distributor. Now remove the 4 fuel lines from the fuel distributor. They'll be coming off with the intake. Then remove the 5th line going to the cold start valve. It's right below the 4 lines. And don't forget to remove all of your vacuum lines. We didn't mark them, but we did take photos. Either way works. Oh, this intake smells like gas. Oh. Dude, you gotta take a whiff.
Can't wait. Like I woke up this morning and I was like, you know what I think is missing in my day? The smell of that system. Taking a nice big whiff out of a smelly intake.
First piece out. Dude, you gotta smell it.
Why does it smell like ass?
It does, right?
That is weird.
Not
Not that I would know what ass smells like, but it's what I would imagine
Oh,
ass
yeah,
smells like.
yeah. Now start removing the intake manifold. Leave the upper and lower section together. No reason to split them up when both parts are coming off. Remove the 3 bolts on the back of the upper intake. They are 13mm. Before you attempt to break loose the Allen bolts, we recommend you clean the inside of the bolt first with a small flathead or anything that'll fit inside of it. They are known to collect grime inside. Now, you can remove the Allen bolts holding the intake to the block. There are 8 of them, and they are 6mm. Let's Eiffel Tower this bitch. Make sure to mark your spark plugs before removing the intake manifold. Oh, and don't touch your distributor.
I don't know if this is salvageable now. Well, yeah, that just broke. And you're not really using that, right?
I am.
Second puzzle of the intake is out. It's a big boy.
Everything that we need to take off is off, including a now bad distributor.
It's my fault. I thought the distributor was attached to the intake. Couldn't see very well. It looked like it was all part of the bracket and everything.
So it's not. So when you watch this to go do your own bike carb conversion, don't touch the
Leave
distributor.
the distributor alone.
That's
So now
okay.
we get to buy a new one just because we stripped some of the wiring on one of the connectors and blah blah blah. So my bad.
But still, car gods, I believe, smiled upon us. We didn't strip one Allen bolt.
We do have one more though on the coolant line that comes in that is difficult to get to.
Yeah. It'll be
So,
fine. No,
The night's still young.
It'll be fine. So intake's off. The fuel distributor, all those stupid CIS lines, out. It's time to put the carbs on with the new manifold and everything. So
Exciting.
stick around for part 2.
Oh, it's a Subaru, bro. This is the place where I bought my Subaru.
Oh, what? That shitty thing. Jetsons, meet the Jensens.
Did you say Jensen's?
Jetsons. There's the Flintstones theme song. But...
Yeah.
Oh, did you hear the fuel pump going out
Is
right
that what
there?
that is?
Yeah.
So the fuel pump just went.
Well, we'll be okay.
Alright, I'm pausing this.